Easy does it. No stampeding. There we go again. Half the crew gone again. Man. I might have just slept in this morning. A couple of weeks ago, we didn't have a seat in the house. I guess the rain scared everybody away. Maybe I should have slept in this morning. No? Well, all right. I'm glad I'm here anyhow. Well, let's get started with a word of prayer. Lord, I thank you for the day. I thank you for our time here this morning. Lord, I pray for those that are in the path of the storm, that those that have come through this storm this morning, Lord, that you would put your hand on them, you would protect them with the rain and the lightning, Lord, and the tornadoes that have come through various places. God, I pray that in all this, that you'll get the glory and you'll get the praise and you'll get the honor for the protection, for the comfort, for the peace. God, I pray that in some way that we can be used in that Lord, you'll use us. And I thank you again for the day, Lord. I thank you for the cool weather that's coming, and just pray for you to give us guidance in everything that we do and throughout the week. God, that you'll guide my words this morning, that you will be here with us. In your name I pray. Amen. Alrighty, so before we get started too far into this, I'm going to warn you now. I'm going to put this out there, and I'm going to warn you that I'm going to cuss a little bit today. So beware. I just want to let you know I'm going to cuss a little bit. And those words, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the words are going to be so that you won't be uncomfortable when they come out. And that word is going to be money. Right, today we're going to talk about money. And I know that a lot of people think that when you talk about money, you're cussing. Today, that's what we're going to talk about. God's really been laying it on my heart this week that this is what we need to do. Now, if you're new here this morning, we welcome you. We are glad that you came and are hanging out. Please know that this is not a subject that I like to talk about. And I only talk about it whenever God prompts me to, which is not very often. But anyway, I think it's something that we all need to know. We all need to talk about. We all need to know what the Word says about it. And so this morning, that's what we're going to talk about. And since it's such a light crowd, you all are welcome not to come next week, because I'm going to talk about the same thing next week. I'm just kidding. Please come back. First of all, I want to thank everybody that gave to the fund that we sent to the AFCC, which is going on to the fire victims in the Panhandle and Oklahoma and Kansas and I think Colorado. They are in the process of planning a trip. I'm not entirely sure exactly where it is, but I know it's a small producer that the AFCC is gathering a bunch of people together in June, I believe it is, sometime in June. And they're going to go and they're going to buy all the material, and they're going to go and they're going to build 8 miles of fence. 8 miles of fence they're going to go and build for this one guy that's kind of a small producer and is kind of getting left out of a lot of the help. And so that's what kind of some of this money is going to. It's also going other places. I don't know where all it's going, but anyway, I want to thank everybody that gave to that. That's awesome way to use your money. It's an awesome investment. One of the best investments that you can make as far as your money goes and what you do with it. So with that being said, let's get into the good stuff, right? There's a couple of things I want to get out of today, all right? And that is, there is a direct correlation, and if you had animal husbandry or genetics in any way, you understand what correlation is. But there's a direct correlation, which means there's a direct relationship. There's a cause and effect here with your relationship with Jesus Christ and your generosity. Right? There's a direct relationship there. Right? If the closer you get to Jesus Christ, the closer you get to God, the more generous, the more giving you are. You can't really have one without the other. That kind of comes along with it. And you'll see that the closer you get in your walk. The second thing I want to point out is that you can start small. You can start small. You don't have to one day decide, you know what, I'm going to start giving, and just start giving whatever it is you feel like. You know, most people say 10% is what you're supposed to give. But you know, I remember back in the day before I started tithing, and if I had started out giving 10%, I mean, just all of a sudden, I would have starved to death. Not that God wouldn't have provided for me had I done that. Right? But a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. It takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of discipline, so to speak, to do that. And so, you can start out small. You can start out with a little bit. Right? The third thing I want to point out is it is an investment. It's an investment in the work of God. Right? And what He's doing in this world, in and around you. Whether it's through your church, whether it's through another church, whether it's through Christian organizations, whether it's you helping your neighbor out because they're in a bind. All of those things is an investment. And it's an investment that you can't afford not to make. You probably hear this or have heard it before, but I don't know that I could afford not to tithe now. I don't know if I could afford not to tithe. Because in giving, it always seems like there's more. But let's get into what God says about it. We're going to be in 2 Corinthians chapter 8 a lot, and 9. So if you want to turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 8, that's where the majority of our time will be spent. And then we'll move on from there. But in 2 Corinthians chapter 8, we're going to start in verse 2. It says, they are being tested by many troubles. Talk about the people in Macedonia. They are being tested by many troubles, and they are very poor. So these people don't have a whole bunch of money, right? This is not like a great place that there's money flowing everywhere and you can just, throw it away or do whatever you want to with it. They're very poor, but they're also filled with abundant joy, which is overflowed into rich generosity. So this place that Paul is at right now is a poor place. And they don't have no whole bunch of money. But what they've come to find is that their relationship with God, which is them being saved, which is them seeking God's will for their life and getting closer and worshiping, that has sparked a generosity, a rich generosity inside the people. And so now they're giving what they don't have. They're giving more than they can afford in order to help other people. Look at verse 5. It says they even did more than we had hoped. For their first action was to give themselves to the Lord and to us, just as God wanted them to. Going back to that correlation I was talking about. The first thing they had to do was understand that they needed Jesus. And then with that growth, that walk in Jesus sparked inside of them the generosity that he was talking about just in the previous verse we talked about. And so the first thing that had to happen was they had to know God. They had to know Jesus. And they had to have that relationship. And then comes the generosity. And then comes the giving heart that we need to have, that we should have, if we have a relationship, a right relationship with Jesus Christ. And so it's the joy, what he talks about in verse 2, the abundant joy comes after the relationship, right? All of a sudden there's a peace, there's a joy that you feel, there's a comfort, and in that comfort comes, I want other people to feel this, I want other people to know this, I want other people to do this. So then, and out of the joy that these people had came the giving. The giving. A lot of times, we in the Western culture, a lot of people might call us tightwads, right? Because we hang on to every little thing we can, and we tend to drive older, beat up vehicles, and we have older, beat up, barely running tractors, but we get the job done, right? But we don't spend that extra money to get a good one or a good, whatever. So we kind of hang on to our money a little bit. So, like I said, some people call us tightwads. Well, that doesn't fit in here. He wants us to give to others in order to help God's will work out, and in order to get to Him. So, I hear a question a lot about giving and about tithing and about where do I need to give my money? Well, a good place is here, but I'm not telling you that's where you need to give it. But it's a good place. But how much? Well, like I talked about earlier, talked about, a tenth, give a tenth. It's in the Old Testament, talked about giving a tenth to God. And so that's great. But when I talked about earlier, you can start small. In 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 11 through 13. It says, now you should finish what you started. Let the eagerness you showed in the beginning be matched now by your giving. Give in proportion to what you have. Whatever you give is acceptable, if you give it eagerly. And give according to what you have, not what you don't have. Of course, I don't mean your giving should make life easy for others and hard for yourselves. It only means that there should be some equality. So you should give in proportion to what you have. There we go back. If everybody gives 10%, it's going to be proportionate to what you have. Right? But you can start out small. It's whatever you give, as long as you're giving it to God and not out of, I got to tithe this week, and I don't know if I'm going to eat, but I got to tithe. It's not I gotta. This whole giving thing is not I gotta. If somebody gives you something, and you can obviously tell that they're not happy about having to give that. Kids do this a lot, because parents say, you got to give this, or whatever. You need to share with your brother or share with these other, and they're like, oh, fine, here. If somebody did that to you, how would that just lighten up your day? Did it just make you feel like ooey and gooey inside because somebody gave you something, but they didn't really want to? Would that just make you feel all good about yourself? It wouldn't for me. It wouldn't do that. In fact, I would probably say, you know what? I don't really need that. You can keep that. This is what it's saying here. Whatever you give is going to be acceptable if you give it eagerly, if you give it because you want to give it. It's not a I gotta, it's I get to. When you're giving money, it's not a I gotta, it's I get to. I get to serve in this way. I get to do this for other people. I get to give this money for other people. It's I get to, not I got to. There's a difference, right? One little letter in there makes a world of difference in the meaning of what it says. It's not a I get to. I'm sorry, it's not a I got to, it's I get to. So the goal today is not to get you given to this church. Understand that. Right? And it's not, I'm not going to tell you where you need to give your money. I'm not going to tell you that you need to give it to a church. I'm not going to tell you that you need to give it to this church or any other organization. But that you use the blessings that you have for others. If you know somebody that's in a bind that can be blessed by what you have, give it to them. More power to you. That is being a Christian. That is investing your money. Because if they know you're a Christian and you get to speak truth into them through that, then you are ministering. You are investing in God's will. It's an investment. Don't get me wrong. We here at Cross Creek Cowboy Church have bills to pay. So I just want to let you know that. It takes money to make this church operate, and so we do need your money a little bit. But I promise you, we're going to use it to the best of our ability. We're going to use it for the ministry that this church is designed for. We're going to use it to reach the Western culture. And that's what we're trying to do. Look at verse 8 in 2 Corinthians chapter 8. I'm not commanding you to do this, but I am testing how genuine your love is by comparing it with the eagerness of the other churches. Here Paul is not commanding the Corinthians that they have to give a certain amount, and it has to meet a goal that they've come up with, and it's got to be or else. No, that's not what he's saying here. He's not saying that they have to meet this goal and I'm coming to get the money and it better be all there. And that's not what he's saying. He's not commanding them to do this. But what he is saying is, hey, this is going to happen if you're giving, you're investing. And if you're investing, God's going to make it tenfold. He's going to use it for way more than you could possibly imagine. Sometimes we lose that. But he said, I'm testing your genuine love. I'm testing what your heart is like. I want to know where your heart is. Because, well, where your money is, that's where your heart is, right? That's where you're going to invest your money, is where your desires are, your heart is. That's where you're going to invest your money. So that's what Paul's saying. He's testing them. He wants to know where their heart is. Where their love is. Is it in God? Is it in the ministry? Is it to help others out? Or is it for themselves? Are they holding back? Or are they not wanting to give? Look at chapter 9. Let's go over one chapter, chapter 9, in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6 through 7. It says, remember this, a farmer who plants only a few seeds will get a small crop. But one who plants generously will get a generous crop. You must each decide in your heart how much to give. And don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure. For God loves a person who gives cheerfully. So, one of the questions about amount that I get sometimes is, do I give on my net or do I give on my gross? Because that's different, right? And for different people, it's a different amount. I mean, it could. There's some that they take out 9 or 10 or 12% out of their check to go for insurance or go to whatever. All the different things you have to pay before you ever see your check, right? And then there's some that's a lot less than that, right? So people often ask, well, how much is 10%? 10% of what? Is it gross or is it net? Well, I think this kind of answered that a little bit. Do you want to be blessed on the gross or do you want to be blessed on the net? Right? In your giving, do you want somebody to get your gross amount or do you want them to get just your net amount? Are you willing to let God use the entire gross amount or do you just want to hold him back a little bit and him use the net? I mean, he can use both. It doesn't matter to him. He's got it. But that's up to you, like he said. You must decide in your heart how much you want to give. But don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure. So I'm not up here telling you, I need your money today. Right? There's a reason I have a job other than pastoring Cross Creek Cowboy Church. So that we can use our money wisely. So we can do more things with less. Each of us must decide what we're going to give. But give it because you want to, because you get to, not because you got to. Because you feel like you got to. Because don't think that's what I'm up here saying. I'm just telling you what the good book says. What Paul is saying is that there's a correlation between your love for Christ and your generosity. It's there. Whether you're giving on gross or net, whether you're giving on your interest in the bank or whatever. However you get money. Not all of us are blessed to just have a money tree that it just comes every... Does anybody have one of those? If you got one, on some seeds. Look at verse 10, same chapter. For God is one who provides seed for the farmer and then the bread to eat. In the same way, He will provide and increase your resources and then produce a great harvest of generosity in you. The relationship between you and God is what changes your generosity. I promise you. We're not all generous inside. A lot of us want to hang on to everything. Want to hang on to all our money. By golly, I made it. I'm going to spend it. Invest it. Invest it. He will produce a great harvest of generosity in you. He will help you spend it wisely, generously, with the people that need it. Not just on whatever you can think of, whatever sounds nice at the time. I mean, who doesn't need a new truck every now and then? Or a new horse trailer? God blesses us with things that may or may not include money. And He expects us to use them wisely and invest them in other people. And invest them in His work and what He has in mind. When He talks about deciding, figuring out in your heart where you need to spend, where you need to invest, the Holy Spirit's going to help guide you in that. That's why it says in your heart. Because in your brain, what does your brain think? Well, I got bills to pay, I got insurance to pay, I got a truck note, car note, tractor note, house note. I mean, imagine how many notes we got to pay every month. There's a pile of them. And in your mind, you're going to think, well, you add up all them notes and there ain't no 10% left. Right? But if you're thinking with your heart, if you're seeking God with your heart, if you're wanting to invest in His work and not your own, then I promise you, you'll find money to give. Like I said, it may not be the full 10% right away, but you'll find the money to give. Talking about money and reading through all these scriptures this week, I really, it kind of made me thinking about a parable that Jesus said, and I'm going to use in Matthew 25. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. There's way more in there than I can possibly unpack today. But I just want to use just a little bit. And it's Matthew 25, verses 19 through 21. It says, after a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they used his money. So before he left, he gave one of them 5 talents. He gave one of them 2 talents. He gave one of them 1 talent. Right? And then he took off. He said, I need y'all to take care of my money. Take care of it. And so, the one with the most said, shoot, man, this dude's going to come back. I better have some more for him. And so he got after it. And the second one, same thing. The third one, he was like, I'm scared of this cat. I'm going to hide it where nobody can find it. I can't lose it. Nobody can get it. And when he comes back, I'll give it back to him. Right? So here he says, in verse 20, it says, the servant whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. You see, our money, our blessings, the things that we have, the things that we own, we think we own, and sometimes the bank owns, are all blessings from God. He is giving them to us to use, to invest. And so if we're not using them to invest, and we're not multiplying His investment, then what's He going to say when we get to heaven? What's He going to say when we stand in front of Him? What did you do with what I gave you? Like the master here said, what have you done with what I gave you? What'd you do with it? And this guy was like, hey man, look, I did this. You gave me this and I doubled it. I made it happen, Captain. And the master said, well, by golly, good job. You did great. Let's celebrate. Let's get excited. You did everything I wanted you to do. You made it happen. And just down in the same chapter, Matthew 25, the one that he only gave 1 to, that hid it, and he brought it back to him and said, here, I was afraid that I would get in trouble if I lost it, and so I hid it instead of investing it. He said, you wicked servant. Man, I mean, he was giving his money back, right? I mean, it's the same amount. Why would he say wicked? Because he didn't invest it. He gave it to him to invest, to do something with, not to hide it. It's like us taking Jesus, giving our life to Jesus, and then not telling anybody. What are you doing with what God gave you? He gave you Jesus Christ to put in your heart and to share, but He also gave you money. He gave you time. He gave you things. He gave you, a lot of us, horses or cows. What are you doing with those? What are you doing with the investments that God's given you? Are you generous with them? Are you giving your time, your money, your effort to something? To something that's going to produce in somebody else a life of righteousness in Jesus Christ? Are you telling other people about what God has done for you? What Jesus has done in your heart? Investment, investment, investment. You talk to any financial person that has ever been anything, and what will they tell you? Don't buy things that depreciate. Buy investments. Things that are going to give you a return on your money. Right? Cars and trucks and stuff like that. It's not like that. It's not an investment. It's an expense, right? Are you sucking what God gives you dry? Are you a depreciable thing for God? Are you depreciating in God's with God's investment in you? Or are you an investment that's giving Him a return constantly? Some of us may be slow, we're not giving but like 1% interest, but we're giving something back, right? Some of us are more generous and are giving lots back. But where our money, what we do with our money defines where our heart is. Like Paul was saying earlier, that he wanted to know where their heart was. He wanted to know where their love was. And so he's asking them about their money, what they were doing with it. And so I'm asking you, what are you doing with your money? What are you doing with the blessings that God gave to you? Are you investing them? Or are you just sucking it dry? Because that well's going to dry up. You keep sucking and sucking and sucking, it's going to dry up. You keep taking and taking and taking, there's going to be none left. But if you keep investing and pouring out and pouring out and pouring out, there's going to be plenty for everybody. Let's pray.